Hello there, welcome to Showcase. It's not easy for emerging artists to reach crowds and make a living through their works. But events such as the Mamut Art Project in Turkey are helping young talents to find the support they need. And now it's launched a new online platform. So what can we expect from it? Well, I went to the pop-up exhibit of Mamut Limited to find out exactly that. Mamut Art Project has been around for more than 10 years to support emerging artists and provide a space for them where they get to meet collectors, curators, and art lovers. Now it has an online platform, Mamut Limited, where you can find limited edition artworks.
We always wanted to work with ex-Mamut artists, and we were always trying to find a way to do that. And also we were having a lot of demands on what to do next, like what would be your second event or how to reach the artworks that you're exhibiting and everything. So we thought we should have a website, which is actually the base of Mamut Limited, and which will have pop-up exhibitions where we can work with anybody we want.
And this is the first physical exhibition of the new project.
We wanted it to have some characteristics also. That's why we focused on limited editions or series specially created for Mamut Limited, where you cannot find anywhere else.
There are about 100 works, including paintings, photographs, ceramics, and sculptures. Emre Karaoğlu is participating in the event with sculptures reflecting the main characters he has previously drawn on the streets.
I turned the first works I painted on canvas or on the wall into these sculptures. Mamut Art Project paved the way for sculpture. Also, I was known before, but Mamut gave me the opportunity to reach different audiences.
Architect and artist Maida Aybala-Petek agrees with him, as she gained visibility after her first exhibit at Mamut Art Project last year. And now her miniature works that focus on women are on display.
I actually use a traditional method, but my approach is not very traditional. Last year, I revived the works of the Western painter in my works here. I reconstructed women belonging to Western culture with the East. People say East-West synthesis, but I find this concept a bit superficial, because I actually created a new identity by putting a cultural element in different place.
All of these works can be reached online through Mamut Limited's website. And people who want to explore the works by both emerging and established Turkish artists can visit one of Istanbul's cultural centers, Bomontia'da, until the 1st of October. Esra Dürüst, TRT World. French fashion designer Gabrielle Chanel dedicated her life to establishing a new kind of elegance and reinvented the women's wardrobe. A retrospective of her work in London now demonstrates both her impact on fashion and the evolution of the iconic Chanel style.
Gabrielle Coco Chanel is one of the most iconic names in fashion history. Her role as Chanel's founder has shaped the industry for decades, and her commentary on female style continues to impact today's trends. In an era when fashion was extravagant, Chanel went against social norms by offering casually chic women's clothing which favoured liberty of movement over unrealistic proportions. With the exhibit Gabrielle Chanel Fashion Manifesto, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London provides a fresh perspective on the designer's legacy. The showcase first debuted in Paris in 2020 and now marks the first time that a UK exhibit is entirely dedicated to Chanel. It traces Gabrielle Chanel's journey from her humble beginnings to the establishment of the House of Chanel.
So the show has changed a little since it was in France. We have over 100 looks on mannequins which didn't feature in the Paris show. And we also touch on other elements such as Chanel's British ties. And we also include pieces from the V&A collections which highlight her work for stage and screen.
The display retraces the designer's career from the opening of her first boutique in 1910 to her final collection in 1971, to exploring the impact of her personal style on the designs. Chanel integrated the menswear trend into her work and popularised trousers for women. The exhibit features over 200 looks in addition to jewellery and includes some of the brand's earliest pieces.
There are some wonderful pieces within the show, of course, really incredible early survivals. There's a very wonderful tunic top from 1916, which is made from Chanel's signature silk jersey. There's also a wonderful array of little black dresses from the 1920s, and of course an amazing collection of over 54 woolen and tweed suits.
Gabrielle Chanel Fashion Manifesto runs until February 25, 2024. The exhibit invites visitors to observe Chanel's work under a new light, while highlighting how her designs represent a manifesto that goes well beyond a mere fashion statement.
Over the past decade, street art has become part of the fabric of Brazil's bustling city of Sao Paulo. Now, a graffiti on a Sao Paulo street also offers visually impaired people an opportunity to become more intimate with the art of hip-hop.
It is wonderful. We consider it something from another world. We never imagined that one day we would have the opportunity to see graffiti and participate in culture like everyone else, right?
We realised that the visually impaired are the only members of the public that didn't have access to graffiti because almost everybody can see it. So thinking about this and wanting to reach out to all members of society and the population, we developed this technique so that the visually impaired can also have access to and get to know what graffiti represents for hip-hop culture.
The race between high-concept fantasy shows on a small screen continues, and Amazon's entry into that competition returns for a second season. But to break away from the rest of the pack, it has a trump card up its sleeve in the form of a Hollywood A-lister.
Everyone has a choice. No one should have that much power.
The success of shows like The Game of Thrones meant that the fantasy genre is a sure way to grab audiences, and streaming platforms were short to pounds. That's why Netflix released The Witcher, and Amazon made shows like The Lord of the Rings and Bad Omens.
You know you have something inside you.
I want to know. But Amazon also has another show that's working its charms as a double threat, and that's The Wheel of Time.
The world will be ours.
See, as the other shows get fanfare for their source material, this one has been picking buzz for including a big-name movie star. Rosamund Pike has been a neo-noir darling, starring in acclaimed movies like Gone Girl.
What are they?
Terran Grail.
What do they do?
Many things, child.
But this time, she shows off her fantasy chops on the small screen. Reviews say Pike's performance is an intense force that keeps the show going full throttle.
Others do what they do simply with the presence of any woman who can channel.
We don't know why they were made. Most we've learned at great cost to avoid.
She's basically the mentor to a young group of people who become vital players in the fight between good and bad. In this second season, the younglings branch out to, quote, find strength in other places around the world, since the woman who brought them together is now powerless to help them out against evil. This season is already called one of the best productions to come out from Amazon Studios, and Pike's work has something to do with that praise. But on the flip side, losing its star power to the small screen could spell some trouble for the movies.
You are the water that turns the wheel itself.
Sci-fi and action may be all the rage these days, but there was a time, not so long ago, when the mockumentary had its heyday. And now it's made a comeback with theater camp to once again blur the lines between fiction and reality.
Listen up. Squad, gang, maybe zip it. Could we just get you guys to shoot?
Oh, what a beautiful
morning. Oh.
Theater Camp tells the story of a rundown, well, theater camp, where the next generation of performers are trained. When the owner of the operation falls sick, it's up to her son and the staff to keep it from falling into ruin. The feature's premise has the makings of a Golden Age Hollywood-style comedy, but its narrative distinguishes Theater Camp from its peers. The story unfolds within the boundaries of the mockumentary.
Totally fine.
The mockumentary is a genre that usually provides a look into the workings of a profession in self-referential form. So even though the story is fictional, the narrative makes viewers think they're actually watching a documentary.
Let's do this.
The music industry had used the genre for quite a few times, with such features as This Is Spinal Tap and The Beatles' A Hard Day's Night. These films provide both laughs and behind-the-scenes glimpses into the profession. But in Theater Camp, the subject matter is the stage, and we get to see the humorous side of the training of budding actors. Reviews have given the picture the passing grade, explaining that those involved clearly know the theater and have a deep appreciation for it. The filmmakers say they love the medium, but also thought it would be interesting to make fun of it.
Some mentholated eyeliner that helps you cry. Joan is screaming and furious.
Like any other genre, the mockumentary has had its ups and downs. But it's often single films, like Theater Camp, that thrust it back into the limelight.
This is a complete disaster.
Everything is gonna be okay.
It doesn't look okay.
We're theater people. We know how to turn cardboard into gold.
And who knows, some success at the box office may set off a few more.
It's art.
Minor housekeeping issue. Whoever stole my CBD gummies, please return them. I'm pretty sure I know who it was.
The Oslo trilogy is often called a Norwegian commentary on the human condition. Director Joachim introduces misfit characters who share profound perspectives on life and similar struggles. Here's a closer look.
3, 2, 1.
The paradox of choice. This might just be the curse that Joachim Trier's protagonists share. And it's perhaps nowhere clearer than in the Oslo trilogy, featuring young characters who navigate the transformative stages of life. It's in the second installment, Oslo, August 31st, that we see the most isolated, distant and vulnerable character of Trier's creation.
Se på livet mitt, jeg 34 år. Jeg har ingenting.
Anders, a recovering drug addict, comes back to Oslo from a rehab centre to go to a job interview and see old friends. But in the glimpse of back to normal, Anders realises that to move on in life, he has to decide between never-ending choices. But this wealth of options soon loses its allure, leaving him all the more disenchanted. All Trier characters are tested with freedom, yet its effects lead to anxiety.
You can't.
And in the case of Anders, it is destructive. The same dilemma holds for the trilogy's first film, Reprise, where the main character suffers from the odd problem of privilege, or what the film's co-writer Eskil Vogt calls the Norwegian dilemma. Eric and Philip are young want-to-be writers, and as close friends publish their first novels, Philip's fate takes a disastrous turn. But the paradox of choice takes a greater form in Reprise. Through elliptic narratives and montages that depict imagined lives, the film shows how lack of limit may in fact be a burden.
Vi var ikke utro, da.
Vi var ikke det.
Vi var ikke det.
Nei.
In the last film, The Worst Person in the World, Julie is fast approaching 30 when she realizes that she hasn't created the life she wanted. This feeling of failure and disappointment opens up a new self as she struggles to find her love and career path. As with all Trier characters, Julie has a distinct way of self-reflection. She actively engages with her thoughts, emotions, and motivations. And the director uses different techniques to show this reflectivity.
And I try to use narration in different ways to also play around with that sense of self-observation in the characters, if that makes sense. Almost like a third eye or a third voice, in lack of a better term. How we always, at least where I come from, I felt a lot of people feel that they objectify themselves in terms of their achievements, as if they have a sort of a transactional relation to the world where they have to do something wonderful to feel that they have any worth. And that's often the source of great drama, I find.
Det står sånn på siden av livet mitt, at det bare en sånn birolle I mitt eget liv.
This interplay between choice and introspection unveils a poignant exploration of the human psyche within the tapestry of Trier films. As his characters move forward, they constantly peer back at their past choices, a reflection of the dance between the decisions made and the souls who make them.
John Carpenter is a filmmaker who built his career critiquing Americana. And it's little surprise that one of his most famous films is about a red 1957 Plymouth Fury with an attitude. But as Alijan explains in our movie almanac, 1983's Christine isn't quite a tribute to classic American cars.
Christine is the story of outcast teenager Arnie, who is not necessarily successful at anything, but it's not for lack of trying. Once he sees a beat-up Plymouth Fury, though, he buys it to bring the muscle car back to its glory days. And while he succeeds in doing that, his obsession with the vehicle comes between his friends, girlfriend, and schoolwork.
No, I thought girls were supposed to be jealous of other girls, not cars.
This car's a girl.
Oh, please.
Arnie won't listen to those who warn him either. Oh, and Christine is jealous of anyone who comes between them. And yes, it's a possessed car. That's why John Carpenter was reluctant to direct it when he first heard about the project.
We'll make it better, huh? Can't hurt us anymore.
He only signed up after finding out it was based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. See, the picture was made in 1983, a time when Stephen King adaptations were on the rise. King is all about dissecting American society using pop culture. Incidentally, those happen to be the same themes that draw Carpenter's interest. The movie essentially looks at school culture problems, such as bullying and bad communication within families. But more importantly, it talks about obsession and how it can damage one's social life as well as psyche. Critics thought the movie managed to give a personality to the car, and by doing so, made Arnie's conflict of choosing between her and his friends more conflictual for the audience. Even though Stephen King is not a big fan of the flick, and has even called it boring, Christine still counts as one of his adaptations which, beneath its B-movie tropes, probes issues that are a lot more serious.
When it was first released, The Way We Were was sold to audiences as a star-studded romance with Robert Redford and Barbra Streisand sharing box office draw duties. 2023 marks its 50th anniversary. In an Now Movie Almanac, Alijan explains how the tearjerker epic is actually a politically charged film with a subtle message.
In a way, he was like the country he lived in. Everything came too easily to him, but at least he knew it. About once a month, he worried that he was a fraud.
The Way We Were tells the story of two people who meet right before the outbreak of World War II, and then again at the end of the war. Hubble is apolitical, and Katie is a fervent anti-war activist. Despite their differing perspectives, they find themselves attracted to each other. Robert Redford and Barbra Streisand were touted as the next big Hollywood pairing back in 1973. They both brought star power to the film. Streisand was coming off the back of What's Up, Doc?, a successful romantic comedy that paid tribute to 1930s movies of the same ilk.
The Pentagon feels that after the war,
it'll be as crummy as it was before the war, you racist think.
And Redford had had major success with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting. It was also the age of romance dramas, with 1970s smash hit Love Story defining the decade's tastes.
Hey. I wasn't sure when you'd be home. How are you? Look, I don't know when I'll be back. Could you leave a key or...
No, you can. I got steaks and baked potatoes and sour cream and chives and salad and fresh baked pie.
The studio reckoned correctly that it would have a potential hit with the Redford-Streisand combo. Audiences at the time hailed the chemistry between the two leads. But romance wasn't the only theme of the picture. See, under its sugar coating, the story actually has a political bent. Even though the movie concerns the Second World War, it's more about the rise of McCarthyism in America. It makes sense. Both Redford and Streisand are known to have activist tendencies.
To close my eyes and to watch people being destroyed so that you can go on working. Working in a town that doesn't have spine enough to stand up for anything but making a blessed buck.
I'm telling you that people are more important than any goddamn witch hunt.
And remember, this was the 1970s, when the Freedom of Information Act first allowed FBI dossiers to be opened. So using the political atmosphere of the time, the flick manages to reflect on U.S. history.
Down here at all, George, somebody might put your name on a list.
I refuse to be intimidated.
Yeah, well, those 10 men feel exactly the same way.
Free speech is all we're talking about.
Reviews still called it a hit tearjerker, but it's the social commentary that made The Way We Were stand out. and helps it stay standing 50 years after its release.
Please, not now.
Yes, I would like to ask these people why they think we just fought a war.
Get the hell out!
What are you people afraid of?
That's it for this episode of Showcase. I'm Esra Dürüst from me and the whole team here in Istanbul. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.